Thank you so much for joining us at Still a Part of Us. This interview between Winter and Bethany about sweet little baby Milo was over 3 hours long, and we decided to split it into 2 parts. Next week, part 2 will come out. Thank you so much for joining us.
Milo Jude. The most beautiful dream boy with a peaceful soul, an adventurous spirit, and a head full of hair.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us. Welcome to Still a Part of Us. We are joined here today with Bethany, and Bethany has just a wonderful, beautiful story of her son Milo, and I'm just so excited for her to come and chat with us. She reached out and just felt such a great need to show her love for her son by telling his story. So Bethany, welcome. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Really.
We're so excited. We really are. I'm just excited to hear about your little Milo. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What does your family look like, and kind of where you guys located so people kind of know where you're at?
Totally. Yeah. So, well, first of all, I just want to say I found this podcast pretty early on into my journey, and just listening to a couple of the episodes just really helped me feel just not as alone.
Yeah.
And I so appreciate your heart in doing this, because obviously you have your own story that even started this, which I'm so sorry that you even have this story, your own version of this story. So, but I also just want to thank you for myself and everyone else that gets to come on here. That is such a beautiful gift to get to. I think so many of us just want to share their story.
Yeah.
And to people that will listen, and not everyone will.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome. So welcome to do that. I this is a honor and privilege to be able to have this space that people get to share their heart. It's just it's pretty cool. And so we cannot feel so alone. It really is. Yeah.
And share our babies, which is our heart, you know?
Yes.
Our babies are our heart.
Completely.
So, it's like, they're so connected. But I grew up in Minnesota, have parents and an older sister. We moved to Colorado when I was 14. I have been a performer and a dancer my whole life.
Yeah.
So I went to a performing arts college, which is where I met my husband.
Okay.
I was 22 and he was 19. But he is like a singer-songwriter. I'm a dancer. We met, we traveled the world together a little bit with this performing arts college, kind of performing and teaching kids. So that was really cool. He is from England.
Okay.
So our relationship, most of it was long distance. And even our entire engagement until we got married is basically when we finally got to actually be together.
Wow.
And then he relocated to the U.S. He moved to Colorado. We lived here for a year, and then we moved to California for the first 2 years of our marriage to kind of pursue performing arts and things like that. Our heart was being pulled back to Colorado, where family and dear friends are. So after 2 years in California, we came back to Colorado. We lived in Denver for a little bit. And then we relocated to the Springs like the year before I got pregnant with Milo. So Lincoln was like 16 months. Now we're still in the Springs. I had my first son, Lincoln, in 2022. So he's 3.5 now.
Yeah.
He had just turned 2 when I first got pregnant with Milo.
Okay. And as just a point of reference, Milo was born at the time of this recording, just a tiny bit over a year ago. Like you celebrate
just hit the year mark.
Yeah. In January of 2025 is when he was born, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
January 28th is his birthday.
Yeah.
So, yep. Yeah. So it's just been a year, which is so crazy to me because it feels like the fastest year of my life and also the slowest year of my life.
Isn't it bizarre? Yeah. There's so much.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
And it's also something you kind of say, just being a parent, I think in general, like it goes so fast and it also goes so slow, but being a lost mom, it's a lot different. It's more complicated than that.
Yeah. Because there's days that are eternities. Like you're like, I'm never going to get through this day.
Yeah. But then yet there's things that I blink and I'm like, how is this possible? Like how is Lincoln so much bigger? Something I tell people, like I'm the type of mother, I'm very, very sentimental. Like even pre-Milo, like I am the mother that just loses it crying every birthday and just like looks at him like, how are you getting bigger? Stop getting bigger. Like as soon as this is so funny, but as soon as his feet started to like get a tiny bit of stink to them, it like making me cry, I'm like, no, like stay little. I breastfed Lincoln for 2.5 years and like wrapping up that journey was just
that
painful.
Hard. Yeah, that was
just
hard.
So painful. And if it weren't for Milo, I don't know that I ever would have stopped. Like, honestly, I think Milo's pregnancy helped me be like, all right, buddy, it's time to end this.
Yes.
And I think what helped my heart is like, okay, I don't get to do it with Lincoln again, which is painful, but I get to share it with another baby. And I think that helped my heart. So then everything that happened, I think sometimes I go back in my mind that I'm like, oof, I feel like I would have grieved that actually more if I would have known what happened with Milo. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was in that moment, I was protected from I was able to keep going. I'm just so sentimental. So I think something that's been hard with Lincoln is just he's still growing so much and I still feel that. And it hurts my heart still just as his mom. But I think my capacity to focus on just that, like I used to, is different because there's Milo, you know?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I have these moments where it's all about Lincoln and it kind of like really, really can make me spiral, I guess, because there will be this time that goes on where I'm kind of surviving and I'm, it looks different than how it used to. I think, I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah.
It's just, you're right. It's so different for a lost mom because, we're going to get into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so let me just make sure that, and then tell me again what you guys like to do as a family. It sounds like you guys are pretty active and busy and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, we have a lot of dance parties.
Oh, excellent.
Lincoln is already showing that he's like a little performer, which is hilarious. I have, even just memories of being pregnant with Milo of just kind of some of like, just like making up a song as a family and being like, oh, Milo's involved in this. But yeah, we're close, tight knit family. Simon and I really, really always wanted kids.
You did.
I was the type of person that pretty much came out of the womb wanting to be a mom.
Yeah.
I skipped Barbies. I was right into baby dolls were my thing. I had about 12 baby dolls and cribs. I had one baby doll that would wake me up at like 6 a.m. Time to wake up, mommy. Time to wake up, mommy. And I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it. I would wake up with this baby and feed this baby. And it was just a part of me from the beginning of just, there's home videos like, Bethany, how many kids do you want? 5. And I could not wait to be a mom.
Yeah.
I I dreamed about it for so long. We also, I think because we both wanted to be parents so bad, we also waited a little bit. We wanted to just have some time in our marriage. So we were married 5 years before we tried for Lincoln. I had just turned 30 and it was like, all right, this is time, especially with moving from California, careers and stuff. I think we just kind of gave it some time, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, and Simon has always wanted to be a father. We always said we wanted like 4 kids. So yeah,
that's awesome.
We love family. We love our babies so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you did want to start trying, was that an issue? Like when you were trying for Lincoln?
No, got pregnant month 1 with Lincoln.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
very
it was
quickly.
real fast. Yeah. And Simon, he has ulcerative colitis and he actually was having like a huge flare up and they put him on steroids.
Yes.
And in the emergency room, we were basically like, we're about to try for a baby. Is this going to affect anything? And she was like, I wouldn't. It's not going to work. Like if you're on steroids, it basically like slows the sperm down so much you're not going to get pregnant. So we still tried anyways.
And you were like,
amazingly got pregnant, like, which was just kind of such a miracle. Even just that month 1 with him being on steroids that I got pregnant with Lincoln so quick.
Yeah.
And then with Milo, it was month 2
really
of trying.
Okay.
So as far as just getting pregnant, that part was quick for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you guys were planning on trying for Milo? You guys were feeling like that it was a good enough space between Lincoln and Milo that you're like, okay, it's time to try again, to add to the family?
Yeah, we'll get into it more, but Lincoln's story was really, really hard and kind of painful. And I went through a lot of postpartum depression. And so I needed more time than I think I had originally planned for.
Okay.
Although it wasn't that long, but I think finally, as we were approaching his 2nd birthday, I think I felt more leveled out in all ways, like my mental health, my hormones, just everything. I was still breastfeeding, but just less often.
Okay.
And so we were approaching his 2-year-old birthday, which is May 30th.
Okay. And
I think like the month before we were like, let's go for it. Let's have the 2nd baby. So, I found out, like, we had Lincoln's 2nd birthday on January 8th. I found out I was pregnant with Milo on June 8th was Lincoln's birthday. And then found out I was pregnant with Milo on June 26th.
Okay.
But I think what was crazy about that is with Lincoln, it was like a pretty early pregnancy test, but with Milo, I found out I was pregnant at like the 3-week mark, like really, really early.
Yeah.
Had that 2nd line.
Yeah.
So I really did a deep dive with the internet. And basically the internet told me that I was pregnant with twins. And I really believed it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Which was really funny. There was like some other signs too, but I really thought Milo was twins. Yeah. So yeah, I found out June 26th. I remember it was like way too early to take a test, but I had some of those like vivid dreams. I just felt I'm like the type of person that I change the way I eat or I do something and I feel everything in my body.
Okay.
So clearly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So very sensitive to different things and changes and everything. Okay.
I just knew. I was just like, I'm pregnant. I know I'm pregnant. And then took the test and there was a 2nd line and I was so excited. I think I had thought that maybe I wouldn't be as excited as I was with my first. And I really was just as excited, if not more. I think having Lincoln helped me even just be even more excited that like, okay, we're really doing this. Like I'm going to give you a brother.
Yes. That's like, so siblings are just, yeah.
Well, I guess I didn't know it was a brother at first.
Yes, but siblings, you just know there's another person that's going to be there.
Yeah, and he is such a Lincoln is he's all about connection.
Mm.
He's a lot like me in that way. He just loves people, but it's so much more than just loving people. He wants to connect to your heart, and he wants to it's so beautiful. He's just such a little like guy of just full connection. And so I think I knew that having a sibling for him was going to be really special.
Yeah.
Also, he loves like baby dolls too.
Really?
And like he loves babies. And yeah, so
he's ready too.
yeah. Yeah. When we first told Lincoln, we didn't tell Lincoln I was pregnant until we knew it was a boy, which was really early. I did one of those really early tests.
The genetic tests, like, because I feel like you can take those kind of early.
I did the genetic test, but I did another, it was like a sneak peek thing.
Oh,
have you heard of those? You can do it at like 6 or 7 weeks.
Oh, that is early.
It was really early.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then,
but it's not foolproof. I think it can be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But typically, I think they say if they pick up on a boy, it's not usually wrong. Whereas like a girl, it can be.
Could
since
still...
I'm a girl, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Whereas like if there's a boy in me, it's like more obvious to be picked up.
Yeah.
So we told him his name was going to be Milo. We knew that right away. Like we knew before we got pregnant with Milo that if it was a boy, we would name him Milo. And so when we told Lincoln, the first way he said it was Lilo. So sweet. And he never said it that way again. It was one time. Because I was like, oh, like that's such a cute nickname. Maybe we'll like call him Milo. But then, I mean, like it was probably like 5 seconds later, he was like, Milo.
Yeah, okay.
Like, shoot, wait, Lilo is really cute.
I know. I was like,
yeah.
Super cute. Okay, well, I want to ask a couple questions. When did you tell your husband? Like, did you tell him, or was it just more like, come look at this?
Yeah, with Lincoln, it was this big surprise. I like had him open a package. It was near his birthday, and it was the pregnancy test and a hat that said best dad and all this stuff. So that was important to me to kind of surprise him the first time. With Milo, no, I was just like, I saw the second line and I was like, look, am I crazy? Do you see the second line? So yeah, I told him right away. There was no surprising that time.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And was he excited? I mean, because you guys were not kind of expecting this to be that quick.
No. And even, that time I knew I was still breastfeeding too. So I'm like, I know that can kind of throw off your hormones. So I wasn't sure if I would get pregnant right away with Milo, but it was still pretty quick. And we were really excited. Yeah.
That is awesome. And how did you choose the name Milo? Like, I know you guys it sounded like you've had that always for a while.
Yeah.
So
we love that the meaning is beloved. There's like a couple different meanings, but we love the meaning of the name. We also just we call Lincoln Link a lot.
Yeah.
And then Milo is a 4-letter.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like, and it's not super unique, but it's also not super common.
Exactly. I was going to say, I wouldn't even say it's that common. So yeah, great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it just sounds like a strong, but just like beautiful boy. Like it just Milo. And it was actually on our list for Lincoln, probably second for Lincoln. But Lincoln, it just felt right. You know how you're just pregnant with that baby, but you just know. And so I think I loved Milo just as much as I loved the name Lincoln, but it felt like Lincoln was Lincoln.
Yeah.
And got pregnant with Milo, and I was like, it's Milo. And then Jude means praised.
Oh.
And so we love we don't go crazy into meanings, but Lincoln has my dad's middle name, which is Mark. His middle name is my dad's first name. So my dad's name is Mark, and Lincoln's middle name is Mark after him. He had a stroke when I was pregnant with Lincoln. Oh. And I've always been very close to my dad, and my dad had 2 daughters. And so I just thought it was kind of a beautiful way to honor him.
Yeah.
To give Lincoln his name as his middle name. So we didn't tell my dad until he met Lincoln at the hospital, which was very, very sweet. So, but yeah, Mark means, like little warrior. And that's also crazy just because of Lincoln's story and how he had to really kind of fight for his life.
Oh.
So yeah, I think that there's some power in names, and yeah, we
Very much
just fell
so.
in love with Milo Jude. So he was Milo Jude probably by 6 or 7 weeks into pregnancy. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
so that's so cool. And then okay, so then you got the pregnancy test, and then did you contact your doctor's office? Because they don't see you for till like 8 or 9 or 10 weeks, it feels like nowadays. So
Yeah. Yeah. I had Lincoln in Denver. So we had relocated to the Springs
oh yeah.
before Milo's pregnancy. So I did know the doctor that I wanted to go with. He had been highly recommended
Mm.
from friends, like 2 or 3 friends.
Okay.
He's just this incredible doctor. He's a Christian doctor. He's been doing it for 30 plus years. And he just had delivered so many babies that I knew. And it just gave me a sense of peace, I think. So I went with him and his office. So I did call his office pretty quickly. I told them my story a little bit with Lincoln and just the fact that I would be high risk. So they did get me in a little bit earlier. So I think that they saw me at week 8,
Okay.
which was a little bit earlier than they normally do. But I was kind of fighting for that. Like they
Yeah.
were like, oh, we'll see you, 10, whatever, 11 weeks. And after telling my story, they were like, okay, well, we can try and get you in
A little bit
a
sooner.
little sooner.
So
Yeah.
with Lincoln, what happened to him that caused you to be high risk? Because that, yes, it does inform Milo's story for sure.
Yes, for sure. So Lincoln was a low risk pregnancy. There was nothing that ever alerted the medical staff of anything. The only thing was that he was always measuring really small. So I think his biggest scan, he was in the 15th percentile. But that isn't a concern for them. Like, I guess they said, and after Milo, they said unless the baby is in the 10th or below the 10th percentile, that's when they're concerned. I was always a little bit concerned about that because it just felt small to
That
me.
does feel small.
But his anatomy scan was perfect. Like, didn't have gestational diabetes. Like I did the genetic scan, the genetic blood test.
Yep, and everything
He was a genetic
good.
perfect baby. Yeah. So there was no reason for them to be concerned. I did bring to them, it was my first pregnancy, so I just didn't really know what to expect, but my placenta wasn't in the front. So I think feeling him took a little bit longer to feel him kick. But then even when I did feel him kick, I just felt like, and when I was supposed to do kick counts, I just felt like he barely passed kick counts all the time. Like it was just kind of like he wasn't the most active baby. And this is with Lincoln. So I did bring that to them multiple times. And they were just like, as long as he passes his kick counts, we're not concerned. So if he ever doesn't pass his kick counts, then you come in. And that never happened. He never didn't pass his kick count. So that was just a little bit of a concern for me. But all of us, especially first time mom, you are just kind of anxious and you don't know what to, so you're just hoping that they're right and they know what they're talking about. So those were the only signs, I guess, that, again, to them, they weren't concerned. I was a little bit concerned. I knew he was small and I knew that he barely passed kick counts. So then I went into labor naturally with Lincoln, 39 weeks and 5 days into his pregnancy. Went into labored. It was like on a Sunday. I think I went into labor at like 4. I just started to get contractions. I hadn't even had like Braxton Hicks or anything. It was this was like the first, I was like, this is it. And then went to sleep, woke up, and the contractions were quite a lot closer together and more intense. So I think we went in by like noon. I think we had called at like 10:30 in the morning and they were like, you know what, it's your first, like take a shower, come in, but you don't have to rush in. Like it'll be fine. So I got in. And I just remember I remember driving over. It was only like a 7-minute drive and just being so excited, also terrified, but so excited to meet our first baby. But within like 10 minutes of being there, they started monitoring Lincoln and they were like, this baby is not happy. Like just the look on their faces. And it was such a shock as a first time mom that like this whole pregnancy, they're like, everything's great. I'm finally just going into labor. And they're just like, he's not doing great. Like his heart rate was all over the place. They felt like his movement was being weird. They were very concerned. Like the nurses looked concerned. A doctor came in. Again, we've probably not even been there 15 minutes. She's like, this looks like it's going to be a C-section.
Whoa.
And I just like immediately started crying. Like, I'm like, you kind of prepare that a C-section is possible. For me, I really didn't want one.
Yeah.
I really didn't. And so that was just tough. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, is he okay? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So they wanted to try a couple things. They were like, we want to give you an IV with some sugar to see if that kind of helps wake him up. So they were concerned that not only was his heart rate dropping and being weird, that his movement wasn't great. Yeah. Yeah. So, which again is something that I had kind of brought to them. But they were like, let's try some sugar. And then when she checked my cervix, she said she touched his head a little bit and it actually helped him move a little bit, which then knowing who Lincoln is now, it's like, of course, just like a little bit of connection. So sweet. It did help him a little bit. The sugar, I think, helped him a little bit. And then they were really struggling to break my water. They were like, let's also try breaking your water. They were really struggling to break my water. So she was like, let's just do an epidural, especially if it does lead to a C-section. I would just recommend getting an epidural.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So we did an epidural. She then breaks my water and almost no fluid comes out. Like I have little to no fluid with Lincoln. So, and Simon watched, like he didn't know if he was going to be squeamish or anything, so he watched this and he was like, maybe like 2 drops of blood came out. Like there was, and I my water had not broken.
What?
No. Yeah. So that was a concern, a big concern as well, that it's like, I had no water, which, a lot of people know this, but for the people that don't, in the 3rd trimester, your water is made up of the baby's pee, which is their nutrients. Like if you don't have that fluid, they're not getting nutrients. Yeah. They're not getting the nutrients they need.
And things aren't getting developed like they need to. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was also concerning. She's like, you have no water. And then like 5-10 minutes, his heart rate drops below 70.
Oh, okay.
And
that's not good.
9 people rush in. She's like, Bethany, this is an emergency C-section. We have to get this baby out right now. Simon's getting the whole gear on. I'm like what? Yeah, that was just hard in itself. Just, is he going to make it? He really, really almost died at that moment. So it was the quickest C-section.
Yeah.
They got him out. He cried. They weighed him. He was 5 pounds, 14 ounces, which again, he was 39 weeks and 5 days. So this is almost a 40-week. He was small. He was little. So it is not protocol for a baby that's almost 40 weeks for them to really run a ton of tests unless they feel that they need to. They didn't seem that they felt that they needed to. We had one nurse very early that was like, he's just so small for his gestational age. I want to check his blood sugar just to see. His blood sugar was at 10. But if you get a reading of 10, it could even be below 10.
Yeah.
Like, and you can't live like that for longer than like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I had already been holding him. So yeah. So that when they were sewing me back up, they did kick Simon and Lincoln out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment, I remember my doctor saying, your placenta looks really small. So I do want to send this off for testing. So that was like a separate thing of like, let's just test your placenta just because it seems really small. This is a small baby.
Yeah.
Let's just send it off. I was like, great. Okay. So then go back to the room, tried breastfeeding with Lincoln for a couple minutes. He did great.
Oh, good.
My parents came in the room to meet him. And then the nurse decided to check. Yeah. Yeah. She's like, it's just a quick prick on his heel to get some blood. And then it was the reading of 10 or below 10. We don't even know. So that nurse, the look on her face was just, she was so alerted. And I didn't even know at that time what that really meant, like I do now. And throughout that whole process, kind of what I ended up learning about blood sugar and all of that. So they immediately start trying to jam sugar down his throat. They were giving him like high calorie formula, and he wasn't responding. His sugars were not going up. So they were like, he's going to go to the NICU. And that was another it's like, not only was this baby like this emergency C-section that he didn't plan for, now he's getting wheeled off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And so my first time walking after having the C-section, she's like, typically you just kind of walk around the room. I can wheel you to your baby, or you can walk to your baby. And I just was like, I want to walk to him, which he was like on the other side of the hospital. So I just walked, I just limped, to the NICU, and he was hooked up. It was tough to see him like that. Especially like when he wasn't sorry. We're not even to Milo yet. He wasn't premature. So you're just not, if you're going to have a premature baby, you kind of maybe prepare yourself a little bit more. Yeah. Like, okay, baby's probably going to be in the NICU. But when you're having a baby that's a couple days shy of 40 weeks, you don't prepare for that, you know?
Yeah, he's going to be big. He's going to be a big kid. Yeah, you just think that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then they were giving him formula right away, and they kept being like, do you want to, like, we don't recommend breastfeeding because it will take up too much energy for him, but you can be pumping, and we can kind of give him your breast milk as an additional thing. So I started pumping like every 2 hours on the clock. Okay. And then we would bring it to him, or the nurse would bring it to him, to get that. And they always were like, oh, he likes yours so much better. So sweet. But they put him on a feeding tube. They were trying to get a PICC line in him so that it was a stable line to get the sugars. Yeah. They could not get a PICC line in him. So they kept putting just kind of these external IVs. So one was in his head one time, and he'd roll over and it would knock out. It was constant. He was just getting stabbed and poked everywhere. The doctor that tried to get a PICC line in him tried for like over an hour. Comes up, she's like sweating. She's like, I can't get a PICC line in this baby. His veins are so tiny. We can't help him. Like, we're going to have to send him to another hospital. So he took an ambulance.
Oh my goodness.
They wouldn't let me I was like, as the mother, can I ride on this ambulance with him? They're like, nope. So I said goodbye to him. They put him in this huge thing. We drove ourselves separate, which was like 45 minutes away, which if you've just had a C-section, that kind of drive is not nice. Nope. But he went to a hospital that was just a little bit more used to a case like his. Okay. That was really hard. So we stayed in like a hostel, close by. They wouldn't originally, the reason that they sent us to this place was that they said we could room share with him. And then that wasn't a thing. They wouldn't let us room share with him. So we stayed in a hostel. And yeah, he was in the NICU for like 2 weeks. Just a big battle with his blood sugar. And then finally, when we got him off of a feeding tube, trying to get him to eat was really difficult. Then we slowly, before he even got home, he started to be on my breast milk instead of the formula, which is what I wanted, but he was on my breast milk through a bottle. Okay. And basically right before getting discharged, the doctor was like, we've seen cases like this where we send the baby home and then they start having seizures, and you're coming back here and the baby has, some brain damage. So you have to really make sure he is eating this amount every 2 hours. Like, we went home with such anxiety because it was like, we weren't done. It was like, yes, he technically passed enough to be released, but we weren't done. And then weeks went by, and finally his pediatrician was like, I think we can try actually breastfeeding now. So then that was a thing that I tried doing, and he took to it, which some babies don't. So I was so grateful. Yeah. But that was also, I was really nervous. So I would go into the doctor and do weighted feeds just to make sure he was getting enough.
Actually getting,
I was just so terrified of this baby dying because it wasn't just right before the C-section that he almost died. He almost died multiple times with his blood sugar going so low. Once they got in that stable PICC line, it didn't get as low, but he just really, really battled with that. So that was kind of like the beginning of my motherhood journey. My 6-week follow-up with Lincoln, that the doctor, they had tested my placenta. She said it was in the 3rd percentile or less as far as how small it was. So basically it was placenta insufficiency, if you've heard of that. So basically my placenta was so tiny. It wasn't an unhealthy placenta. It just was so tiny that towards the end, it wasn't giving him what he needed.
Yeah.
Which if they could have known that, he could have come out earlier because he was almost 40 weeks. But yeah, she was like, any future pregnancies, you're going to be considered high risk.
Okay.
She said, you might have this again, you might not. She was like, I kind of see it go 50-50. People that have placenta insufficiency, sometimes they just have it with all their pregnancies and sometimes they just have it one time. So we'll see what happens. But no matter what, you're going to be treated very high risk.
They're going to watch you way better.
Yes. So that kind of, as much as I had fear going into Milo's pregnancy, I think there was some peace in like, okay, but Lincoln almost died because we didn't have knowledge. Yeah. We didn't have this knowledge about what was going on with him or what was going on with my body. Now we have this knowledge and I'm going to be treated high risk. So if anything happens, they'll get this baby out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, to understand Milo's story, Lincoln's story is
very much
really,
part of it.
Really important. So Lincoln almost died. I think with my pregnancy with Milo from the very beginning, even though I was afraid, I was always scared and I was always anxious. But I think my biggest fear was I would have the same story again, which would be emergency C-section, baby in the NICU. And I told myself so many times, like, okay, that's not what we want. But if it ends there, like, look at Lincoln now. He's beautiful. He's healthy. He's barely been sick. He is just, it's crazy.
Just a funny thing at the beginning.
You're like, and it was just my placenta. It was just related to my placenta.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, with Milo, we did the genetic testing, genetically perfect baby. Nothing wrong with him at all. As soon as I met with the doctor, it was really important to me that I told him Lincoln's entire story. I was so like welled up with tears, crying. I was just like, he almost died. I had little to no fluid. I told him everything. He's like, I'm notating your account. We're going to treat you the most high risk. We're going to give you more growth scans, especially towards the end. Okay. Like our biggest thing is going to be tracking this baby's growth. It's going to be okay. And so he was so confident from the beginning. He was so, but he also, it never felt like he was overconfident. It felt like he was like, we've got this. I'm going to keep an eye on this. I'm hearing you. I'm listening to you. And that's really what it felt like. And honestly, if it had felt like anything else, I would have left and gone to a different doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which totally makes sense.
Yeah. So that was, but what I was going to say is that I think that was my biggest fear, was that another story like Lincoln. But what I felt like it deep down in my spirit and my heart, it was that it was going to be like my redemption story with Milo. And I think with everything that happened, that's something I've come back to so many times of just, it's so painful to think about that because I don't know where that came from. And it just, it's hard because as a person, I've usually been able to rely on that of just kind of like this knowing or this overall peace that yes, there's anxiety, there's stress, there's worry. We're going to be on top of it. But in the end, it was going to be okay. And this story was actually going to go so much different than Lincoln in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
So that's a tough piece. But the whole pregnancy with him was also just, I've never had sciatica before.
Mm-hmm.
I got a crazy, like little flare up of sciatica in my first trimester with Milo.
Really?
And I was
In
also
the first trimester. That's interesting.
which is weird,
It's
right?
usually later, if anything.
Yes, that's what my doctor said. So that was odd. They also can't do anything for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like literally could not give me anything. Like they're like,
Yeah.
you could take Tylenol
You're like,
occasionally.
yay.
Yeah. And it was bad. Like the first couple of days, like I could barely move.
Oh,
It was, but then I was also throwing up, like my head's in the toilet.
okay.
I got pretty severe morning sickness with Lincoln and with Milo. I was sick with Milo up until like week 20, 21, 22.
So late.
Yes. So finally by like week 22, we were done with the sickness. So, and then also just being pregnant when you have a toddler is just, it's a different ball game. You're
hard.
just so tired. I'm like going to the park, like, oh, I just want to be sleeping. Like this is,
Yep.
but you have to keep going. I'm a stay-at-home mom with Lincoln. I always work part-time, like 15 hours a week.
Yeah.
Throughout Milo's pregnancy and since having Lincoln and stuff. I used to be full-time, but then after having Lincoln, went to remote part-time.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to spend a lot of time with him. But yeah, that part of the pregnancy was hard. But of course, he was always so worth it. We took a lot of trips. Like we had gone to California, took Lincoln to Disney, and then we went to Minnesota, which is where I'm from, but Simon and Lincoln had never been.
Oh.
So I was like halfway through my pregnancy, and we were in Minnesota on the lake on boats with family. And the whole time I was just like, Milo's experiencing this with us. And I got to tell all of the family members in person about Milo.
Yay.
And introduce him. So that was a cool piece and something that now like lakes and Minnesota in general remind me of him. But that was a sweet time. And then we went to New York. Simon had to go there for a work trip, and me and Lincoln just came along and Milo.
That's awesome.
And we just kind of hung around. And so, it was, especially once I got to like week 21, it was a pretty easy, normal pregnancy. Started to get more scans. And he was,
I was going to say, did you have the 20-week scan, like the anatomy scan, the official anatomy scan at 20 weeks, or was it closer to 21?
18.
Oh, so you did get it earlier because they were worried, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that was like the first big scan, and he was perfect. Everything was great. Everything was working great. He was always in like the 75th percentile, almost so
every
scan.
Totally on the other side.
Yes, which was also kind of added to my whole like redemption story thing of like, whoa, he's bigger. This is different. Like maybe my placenta is not going to do what it did with Lincoln.
Yeah.
So he was always in like the 75th percentile. I also want to touch on other things with his pregnancy. With Lincoln, we said that he was like a little mouse when I was pregnant with him, and we still call him Mouse. With Milo, we said he was like a little bird or like a songbird.
Oh.
So I have like little birds in his nursery and stuff, and that was way before everything. And so, that he's our little bird. We have a little mouse and a little bird. And
Cute.
I was doing his room in like a lot of teddy bears. I just kind of felt like that was Milo. Like before I had him, I got these socks that had teddy bears on them for Milo because I was doing his room like that. Yeah. So a couple other things with that, but there was an appointment. I guess it was maybe like right before I was entering the third trimester, and we were kind of getting some more appointments scheduled. And the front desk person was like, he's going to want to be adding NSTs probably starting at week 28.
Okay.
I think I was probably like week 24 at that point. She's like, he's going to want to be adding NSTs and probably seeing you once a week once you hit 28 weeks.
Okay.
I was like, okay, that sounds great. So my last scan before the really important scan was week 28. And again, everything looked great. He was still in the 75th percentile. We did bring up to him at that point, though. We were like, are we going to start to get NSTs? He was like, there's really no need. Milo's just not, he's just not showing that he's in distress. His growth is great. Everything's looking great. And I remember just being like, there's no test for the placenta, right? And he was like, no, there's not. There's not, a standard test for us to test the placenta. And then I reminded him about my little to no fluid with Lincoln. And I was like, can you be checking fluid? And he was like, you never told me that. And this was at like that 28-week appointment. He's like, you never told me you had little to no fluid when you had Lincoln. And I was like, I definitely did, multiple times. So that was a little bit of a red flag. I remember just being like, what? So he was like, okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up. So we will be adding some tests to just see where your fluid is at. But at this appointment, he was like, I would actually like to start taking some of the growth scans off that we have scheduled. And both me and Simon came to every single appointment with me, because especially with everything with Lincoln, both of us just looked at each other so alerted. And I, like, with tears in my eyes, I was like, well, everything with Lincoln happened at the very end. I don't think that we can be taking off growth scans, even if he's great right now.
Yeah.
What if he starts dropping? And he was fighting me on this. He was just like, I promise you this baby is good. I don't think we need this. But if you're really that worried, we will leave these growth scans on. He said, but I will not add any more. And I said, okay. Again, he just felt so confident. So then 3 weeks later, I come back, which again, you're in the third trimester by 28 weeks. That was even weird that they're like, see you in 3 weeks. Like, again, it should have been that I came back the next week.
Yeah.
So
you're being seen kind of often. Like when you're high risk, like I felt like I was at the hospital all the time.
And I was asking, and I was from the very beginning advocating, and another thing before I go to that really important appointment is that I started feeling Milo a lot sooner, his kicks and his movements, because my placenta wasn't covering that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I felt like at first I was like, this baby moves a lot more than Lincoln. And again, that was kind of a gift to me. And then I think by like the 24-week appointment is when I started to bring to my doctor, just saying, you know what, I feel like he's a lot like Lincoln. I feel like he doesn't move a lot. So as soon as I started to hit around that 24-week mark, I just was like, I talked to these other moms that are at my same, and they're like, oh, like my baby's going to bruise me in the ribs. They're kicking so much. And they're like a little athlete. And it's like, I'm laying there like, you got to kick again. You got to kick again, So I'm bringing this to him, and I'm like, I'm concerned because our first son almost died. These are signs that he showed. And my doctor, this is again at like the 24-week appointment, he's like, that was Lincoln's personality. That had nothing to do with what happened to Lincoln with his sugars and him almost dying. His movement had nothing to do with that. I can promise you that. He was like, is he a chill kid? And I said, yeah. I mean, Lincoln is the most chill kid you've ever met. It's like, yeah, he's really chill. And he was like, it's his personality. You likely just make really chill babies. So Milo is another really chill baby. Congratulations. And I was like, okay, so all of that, like Lincoln's low movement had nothing to do with what happened with him. He was like, I promise you, had nothing to do with what happened with Lincoln. So I brought this concern multiple times. I brought it again at that 28-week appointment that we were asking, can we start to do NSTs? I said, I still just feel like he barely passes his kick counts. He's like, there's nothing wrong with this baby. He's in the 75th percentile. He's healthy. So he was just really pushing that Milo was perfect and great, which he was, but yeah. There were signs that he was showing just like his brother. So then just earlier.
Yes.
And then the 31-week appointment is like the catastrophic failure appointment, because basically we got a scan and I was going to maternal fetal medicine and then, which was across the way, and then would go see my doctor and he would read the scan. So in the ultrasound, they don't tell you anything,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
So I was waiting to see my doctor right after, and he comes in and he was like, he's perfect. He's so healthy. He's great, guys. And me and Simon just felt alerted to be like, well, where is he at? What's going on? He was like, he's like in like the 30th percentile. And we were like, wait, he's always been in like the 75th. And he was like, there's no concern unless he was in the 10th or below. That is when we're concerned. And I was like, but he's dropped in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, he dropped from the 75th percentile to the 30th, which is a big drop in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it is.
And I found out later, looking at the ultrasound, that my fluid also went down at that appointment. From the 28-week scan to the 31-week, it was still in the normal range, but my fluid had gone down, which he didn't even mention. Again, he kept saying that our whole goal with Milo was to track his growth.
Yes.
So this was a growth scan that revealed that Milo was dropping percentiles. And he said he's in the 30th, which from, because you can't really give him any grace, honestly. But technically, if Milo would have always been in the 30th, fine. Yeah, that's nothing to really be worried about. But because of the huge drop and my history with Lincoln, then being coupled with the fact that I'm high risk and we're tracking this baby's growth, that was major. That was a huge red flag. So I do know that he was about to leave for his daughter's wedding that was in another country the next day for 10 days. I know that piece, and that piece kind of keeps me up at night because, you know, I feel like we've all done it in our jobs of like, maybe we're about to go on vacation and we kind of sort of clock out a little sooner. Yeah. But you can't do that in his line of work. You can't do that. And I believe that he did that. I believe that he pulled up Milo's ultrasound and saw a normal amount of fluid and a 30 percentile baby and was like, we're good. But the whole point was to pull up the ones before to match them. To compare. Yes. And I don't believe he did it. I do not believe he did that. So, and we even had to ask him what percentile he was in. They didn't even send me that ultrasound. I had to ask for it later. So we're super alerted. And I'm like, both me and Simon are like, can we start NSTs now? Like, can we get one today? Yeah. Can I come back tomorrow? Yeah. And if your doctor leaves, like there was one time I couldn't see him and I saw someone else for my gestational diabetes appointment. It's not like him being gone should have affected me just coming in. He was like, there is no need for NSTs. There is no need for extra scans. Again, I'm 31 weeks at this appointment. He says, I'll see you in 3 weeks when you're 34 weeks. I will see you in 3 weeks. And I even at that point was like, but I even with Lincoln, I think I was low risk. I was coming in more often. But I think his idea was because we're doing like these growth scans every time that I don't actually need to come in between. I don't even understand. It doesn't make sense. But I wasn't being treated high risk. And I know that now. At the time, I was advocating, I was asking questions, and I was bringing up everything that I possibly could. But you are at the mercy of your provider. You know what I mean? You can't make them give you extra testing. Like, I'm asking for NSTs. He said no, that there's no need for them. Oh, my God. So, and again, to go back to Lincoln's story, as soon as they started monitoring me, they knew he was in distress. Yeah. I know that Milo would have shown us that he was in distress. He would have. Because when a baby is not getting enough food from their placenta, that's why he wasn't moving a lot, because they're saving energy. Yeah. And he would have shown us that in an NST. But he was just like, he's He's great. He's perfect. I continued to do kick counts, but they continued to be the same. But again, he had just said that that had nothing to do with it. So yeah, that 31-week appointment, we are pursuing legal things now. And that is really the major, major, major fail. Because even if the 30 percentile and my fluid going down wasn't enough to get him out that day, it was enough to bring me back for additional testing, to even send me off to somebody else.
Yeah.
To bring me back multiple times, to do an NST that day and then bring me back the next week, whatever that were to look like, it needed to be like, okay, we're alerted now. We're gonna
take some action.
Yes. And that didn't happen. So the thing that he said to me that haunts me to this day, at that 31-week appointment when we ended, he said, "Bethany, there is nothing you can say that will worry me about this baby or this pregnancy. He is perfectly healthy. I will see you in 3 weeks." Yeah, that's how he ended that appointment. And those are words I thought about a lot in those coming 3 weeks. And I still think about them so much now. But so I was scheduled to have an appointment with him, I think the first day of being 34 weeks. 2 days before my scheduled 34-week appointment, I had felt him like normal in the morning. Lincoln was so cute with him that morning. He was like interacting with him just kind of more on his own. I think I had always just kind of prompted him to be like, give Milo a kiss or say hi to Milo.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about him like he was just already there all the time, Yeah. I was preparing him to be a big brother. He had all these big brother books. He was so excited for Milo, but this was just the first time kind of on his own. He's just a 2.5-year-old that he just was really interacting with my belly, with Milo. He was just like, "I love you, Milo. I love you, Milo. I love you, baby Milo." And he's like kissing my tummy. And I just happened to video it. And in one of the videos, Lincoln says, "I love you, baby Milo," and kisses him, and Milo kicks back. And you can like see my stomach move. And it's just such a sweet video. That I remember feeling him that morning. And we were having a sweet little night. We had this ball pit. We had just finished our basement. We were doing renovations to the house, kind of some pre-baby stuff. Before Milo, we had just finished the basement. We had just finished like our fireplace area. So we were playing in the basement in his ball pit, just having, there's like these times of like being a parent where you're just like, I wish I could bottle up this moment. I felt like that in that moment, not knowing what was about to happen. I remember being like, this is such a sweet moment. We were just playing in the ball pit and laughing, just all three of us. Simon kept going back upstairs. He was making chili. It was like about to be dinner time. And Lincoln loves chili with tons of sour cream. I was like, Simon, I feel like I've not felt him for a little bit. And we had this little heart rate monitor at home. I worked for a lady that's a nurse that had given me one during my pregnancy with Lincoln. And so we used it a ton with Milo. That's something I didn't even say, but throughout Milo's whole pregnancy. And I had asked my doctor, like, is that okay? Like, is there anything bad? And he's like, no, you can use it as much as you want. So we used it anytime that I had felt like, okay, I feel like he barely passed his kick counts just now. We would use it just to make sure and use it for a little while. And Simon always located his heartbeat right away. And so I was just like, I just feel a little bit alerted. So he was like, let me get the Doppler. We'll do it. And so I laid down and he went right to the spot that he normally would find it, didn't find it. And he's just kind of like searching. And I was like, what's going on? He was like, I don't know. I feel like I can normally locate it so quick. And that was just the first moment where I'm like, whoa, like what, but then I'm like, it's probably broken. Like this isn't like this, like top
super
like,
fancy.
No, this is probably like $25 on Amazon. This isn't like, so we called And they were like, you should just come in. I called my mom. I was confused with Lincoln because I'm like, he needs dinner, then he's going to need to go to bed. I'm hoping this is just a really quick appointment. The hospital was only 7 minutes away. So I'm like, my parents are 20 minutes away. So I'm like, I didn't really want to drop him off or wait for them to come. So I'm like, we'll just bring Lincoln.
Yeah.
We'll just throw Lincoln in the car with some chili. It was snowing. It was snowing pretty hard. We didn't bring chili for ourselves. We just brought it for Lincoln in a little bib and a spoon. And went on the 7-minute drive, and I was like, Simon, everything's okay, right? And he was like, I don't know for sure, but I believe so. I just think we're going to feel better if we do this. You're going to feel better. And I just remember that walk inside and like holding Lincoln's little hand, and we checked in. There really isn't anyone there at that time, like the triage part. There was like this older nurse that checked us in. She had me change into a gown. And I think I really thought it was okay. I was concerned, but I believed that it was okay. So she was trying to get his heart rate, and her hands were freezing, just freezing. And they start shaking, and she's just these freezing cold hands just shaking over my belly. And I was like, you're not able to pick anything up? And she was like, no. And I said, is that normal? And she was like, honestly, because you're so far along and you're like 34 weeks and they're big at this point, they can get in positions that it's harder to locate their heartbeat. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense, but also still concerned, but also still like, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm going to have a doctor come in with the ultrasound machine. And I remember the doctor, it was like a lady doctor. I've never met her before. She was really sweet, but she just started scanning. And just typically when I would look at the ultrasound screen, the way that you would see things light up, it looked different. I just remember it looking different. And she just wasn't saying anything. She was just looking at the screen kind of with like wide eyes and just like really scanning. And I remember before I said anything, Lincoln was like, Mama, why are you in that bed? Like he just didn't understand, what we're even doing. And I just looked at her and I said, nothing. And she said, I'm so sorry, sweet girl. And I was like, what? What do you mean? She said, I'm so sorry, sweet girl. That's all she could say. I'm so sorry, sweet girl. I was like, he's dead? And she was like, yes, we're going to have another doctor verify. And I just was like, what? I just remember so many things about that moment. I remember feeling like the color in my world legitimately changed to like gray. I've like the way I heard things, the way I looked at things, it's like it all changed in that very moment. Yet there was so much shock and unbelief at the same time that it was like this really weird mixture of like, there felt like there was this death of me with him, but then also this like, no. I just remember looking at Simon with like the biggest eyes, like, no. And he was like, we just looked at each other like we were, you don't even like immediately start crying in that situation. Yeah. It's like your body is like, no, like there's like, no, this isn't real, right? This isn't real. So we're waiting for the other doctor to come in, and I'm like, Simon. He's like, I don't know. Like, so then this guy doctor comes in and he verifies. It's just also like, I get that they have to do that, but it's brutal. It's just like, all right, great. Thank you so much. And he just sat down on the bed with me right away. And he's like, I think we should do a C-section tonight. You had a C-section with Lincoln. You are only 34 weeks pregnant. You are not going to be going into labor on your own right now. You're not going to be dilated. We would have to induce you. And with inducing, if you've had a C-section, there's risks of uterine rupture. You've now had a baby die. And I'm like, I can't even wrap my mind around the fact that Milo's dead. And then now you're talking, he's like, if you want to have other babies in the future, I just think we need to think about your uterus. We don't want it to rupture. I'm like, other babies, what? Like, I can't even.
You're like, what?
I've not even had a second to understand what's just happened. Like, he's not here anymore. And now immediately you're like, let's get him out. Like, he's not alive. And also just the thought of that, of like, okay, yeah, I'm so far along, but like, I have to be cut open or go through labor and he's not here. Like, what? No. And he's just like, I think we could do a C-section tonight. And I was like, I mean, we've got my toddler right here. I don't have a bag, nothing. Like, I was like, can I talk to my doctor? And he was like, well, your doctor's not in till Tuesday. And I was like, right. Can my doctor call me? And he was like, I can try and see if he'll call you on Monday, but he's not in till Tuesday. So he was like, he's like, we don't feel comfortable inducing you. Which the weird thing is he never checked my cervix that night. I think.
Oh, really?
I do think that would have been maybe a normal thing to just check, because you can. People have premature babies. They go into, and he wouldn't even been that premature. 34-week babies. Sometimes they go home with no NICU time. I mean, crazy. They're like fully like there's babies all the time that make it, and they're like 23, 24 weeks. Yeah. But like full viability is 28. He was 34, but I did not want a C-section. I'm like, I've gone down that path. It's very painful. Even just the crying that I did with just being concerned about Lincoln and being separated from Lincoln, it hurt so bad. Yeah. And I was like, my baby's just died. I'm not going to get cut open. I'm not going to
have
grieve
that
on top of him not being here. Like, I at least want to push him out. Like, he's not even alive. Like, you should let me try this, And they just really were pushing back. He's like, I'll have your doctor call you on Monday if that's what you want, basically. So it was like C-section that night, or your doctor can call you, hopefully, fingers crossed, on Monday. And we went home that night. We put Lincoln to bed. My parents came over and hugged us and sat with us and cried and just still didn't feel real. I remember Simon sitting on the couch and looking at me, and he's like, I can't even wrap my mind around the fact that he's not here. But he was like, babe, you have to either be cut open or deliver this baby. Your milk's going to come in. You're going to go through postpartum. And he's not here. Like, Simon immediately, I feel like, was just so with me. Like, no, you're going to go through all of this. Like, he was like, I wish I could take something for you, And I'll just never forget, like, that night trying to go to bed. Like, nighttime was when Milo was the most active. So I laid down to sleep, and it just felt it's just so painful, because I also felt like I was feeling movements, but then obviously I knew he wasn't alive. So then that's confusing. But then it's like those few days were so confusing, because I was like, part of me was like, I don't want him to come out. I don't
Yeah.
want to end this. This is me and him. This is, he was safe in here, like, I don't want him to get cut out and then it to be over. But then also there's this weird feeling of like, it's kind of scary that you've found out that they're not alive and they're still inside of you. It's like, so it's like this contrasting feeling. It's really
so confusing.
Yeah. It's like you can't possibly enjoy it, but you're trying to just be like, I will never be pregnant with this baby again, but also they're not alive, but also don't take them out, but also they're not alive, like, and they're inside of me. Like, what? How is this real? I remember like I tried to take a video of being pregnant with him in the mirror and I just lost it crying. The next day, my best friend came over, my parents came over, just kind of extra hands with Lincoln, just kind of like there for us. It was just such a surreal time because he wasn't alive. I was going to have him, but I had no idea how, if it was going to be a C-section or if I was going to push him out. And I had no idea when. I just knew my doctor hopefully would call me Monday. So like that, because it was on a Saturday that we found out that his heart had stopped. So Sunday, and I remember being so confused of like just life. Like, am I supposed to shower, laundry? Do I wash dishes? Like, it just feels like life is supposed to stop for sure because everything, it's like you just went through this major train wreck of your entire life. And somehow Lincoln still needed to be fed. And I might be having a baby in the next couple of days. And we had been doing renovations. I needed laundry. Like I didn't really have much clean laundry. And I'm like, I have to just put laundry in. I have to start packing my hospital bag. How do you pack a hospital bag for a baby that's not here? Because somehow it's so similar, yet so different. And I knew what to pack if he was alive. I knew I was so excited. I had gotten this black robe that I hoped to wear for Lincoln that I never got to wear because of the C-section. I was like, I'm going to wear the black robe for Milo. I knew I needed breast pads for my milk coming in. I knew all the things. He's not here. Do you still need breast pads? Well, like your milk's still going to come in. I'm still a mom. I'm still going to have a baby, but somehow him not being alive feels like it negates everything. And it does, but yet it doesn't because it's still going to happen. And so it's like, it just was this, I remember having my bag and just staring at it and just being like, what do I put in here? What do I bring? What do I do? I have this friend that's like a best friend and a big sister wrapped up in one. She's a couple years older than me, but she's just always kind of taken me under her wing. She's truly like best friend and sister. And I was like, can you send me everything I need to pack? Because my brain's not working. I don't know what to do. She sent me this list. She sent me some really beautiful things of just like, I want you to know that you might be afraid of the moment that when you have to say goodbye to Milo's body, but he's not afraid for that moment, just trying to like prepare me. I remember having a conversation with her and she was like, did they talk to you? Oh, cause like when I left on that Saturday, they sent me with no resources, no one to call, no paperwork, just nothing. Just like, hopefully your doctor calls you Monday. So you've just found out your baby's dying. You're not thinking about what their appearance might look like as you carry them longer. Jess was very lovingly the first person to be like, so I'm glad you didn't get a C-section on Saturday night. I do think we might want to have him come out hopefully soon. I know you don't want that, but from what I'm understanding from my research is that his appearance will look a little better the sooner he comes out. And I just remember that. I was so grateful for her saying that, but also like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like I think I had this idea that maybe somehow inside of me, it like preserves him or something. That's just not the case.
Yeah.
Ooh. So I was on the phone with her so much. Like she would just be like, have you brushed your teeth today? You know, like she just was trying to, cause I did not know how to function. I'm trying to still, I think I was bare minimum still trying to care for Lincoln because I had to. But as far as myself and, you know, trying to do laundry, trying to pack, trying to I couldn't sleep, could not sleep. It felt like we were on this path of like, if you're like watching like a horror movie, but it like starts off beautiful and like the colors are vibrant and it's beautiful and like people are laughing and then almost like it just turns into horror. It felt like that's what happened. It's like, it felt like I got plucked from this reality that was this beautiful reality to get thrown in this awful nightmare reality that I didn't want. And I didn't want to live. I did not want to live that reality. I'm like, I just want to go back. Like it just, what? How is this possible? How is this happening to me? The girl that came out wanting to be a mom day one, you know, like how? Lincoln almost dying should have saved Milo's life.
Yeah.
But I packed some things. I packed the black rope. I contacted a photographer that was just she had done one shoot for our family when Lincoln was about 18 months old. And they were just such beautiful photos, like some of my favorite photos of our family. And I just know her spirit and who she is just to her core. Like we were friends, but kind of more acquaintances at that point, not super close, but I just was like, I want Christina to take photos. I had Jess, the friend that's like a sister to me, reach out to her, but there wasn't any reply. So then I reached out to her myself. I remember I was sitting over here doing laundry, trying to reach out because I had said to Simon, like, I think we're going to want pictures. And he was like, of the worst moment of our life. And I was like, yeah, I know it's so confusing, but I'm pretty sure that because it's our child and because it's him and because we're going to have to do something with his body, this is all we're going to have of memory making. And he was like, okay, you know, I mean, because I felt the same. I'm like, I don't want pictures of this. Yeah. Like, I don't, but also I probably do, like knowing myself, no, I probably do, but this feels really painful to even think about, but I probably do need pictures. And so Christina just right away was like, yes, I don't care if he comes out via C-section. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. I will drop everything. She has 3 kids. I will drop everything and I will drive there. They had just I didn't even know they were living somewhere else and they had just moved back to Colorado. They happened to move to our little neighborhood, which is crazy, 6 minutes from us. So she was like 6-7 minutes from the hospital. It was like so meant to be. She was like, the second you need me, I'm going to drive there. I will have my phone on loud for the next couple days. And I just remember being like, whoa, like what a little angel godsend person. My doctor calls on Monday. And he calls from a blocked number. So I didn't first answer, and then he called again. And his entire demeanor from my whole pregnancy with Milo was immediately different. He was cold. He was defensive. He didn't even say sorry. He didn't even have like remorse or pain in his voice or anything. Just was like, it was so crazy to me. So I very early in the conversation was like, I believe Milo died of what Lincoln almost died of. I believe my placenta gave out on Milo. Oh, because another really important part to go back was that Milo had to have just died before they did the ultrasound confirming that he had died. He had to have just died. I believe I was alerted probably in the moment that he died. Oh. You know how mothers just kind of, and I know that it's maybe not the same for everyone. I just feel like I was really alerted probably the moment. And then obviously by the time we got to the hospital, he wasn't here anymore. He little to no fluid. They could see that on the ultrasound. little to no fluid. So that was my first sign at that point of this is what happened to Lincoln just earlier. So I said that to my doctor, and he's like, remind me what happened to your first son again. I said, I just like remember pausing and just being like, what? And so I told him, and he's like, no, that's not what happened here. This is likely SIDS in the womb. We're seeing that a lot these days, is SIDS in the womb. And, you know, we're probably never going to know what happened to Milo. And I know that's really hard for you to hear right now, but we're never going to know. And I was like, okay. So he's like, I do recommend a C-section. Your body's not going to be going into labor. You had a C-section with Lincoln. That's what we need to be doing. We can have you come tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday. I have an appointment. We could get a C-section scheduled for 4:00 tomorrow. And I was like, please, is there any way that I can just have this baby vaginally? Like, it wasn't even just the C-section part and having to recover from that. I feel like it was a tiny, insignificant way for me to honor Milo and for me to do something for him that I believe should have been part of our story. And it's like a small piece of the story that I could try and hold on to, of like, okay, I at least want to have him this way.
Yeah.
And because I had even asked, like, if I have a C-section, can the photographer be in the room? No. And I'm like, okay, I know how this works. Then it takes like an hour to get sewn back up. Like, I don't have that much time with my baby. Like, I need to have him vaginally. There were so many reasons that I was like, please. And he's like, the risk is just pretty high. And that was starting to scare Simon, because the percentage of your baby dying at 34 weeks, if there's no genetic issues like Milo, is 0.01% chance at 34 weeks. That I know that number actually goes up the later you are in pregnancy, even with a healthy baby, just because of just the kind of like your placenta giving out, or, you know, like,
the baby's
them getting bigger.
Yeah,
So 34 weeks, healthy baby, fully viable, no genetic issues, 0.01% chance that they die. So Simon's like, our baby died with a 0.01% chance. They say that there's a 3% chance that if they induce you, that your uterus ruptures and it could kill you or could make you lose your uterus. And he was like, it feels like this family has really bad odds. And I'm scared for that. And I was like, okay. And I wanted to listen to him in a way. And I also was like, but I need to do this. I feel like I need to do this. So my doctor said, okay, Bethany, fine. You can come in tomorrow. I have a 1:00 appointment. I will check your cervix. If you are dilated or effaced at all, I will feel better about inducing you. So let's just see.
Okay.
So we just started praying, had friends praying, got my parents lined up to take Lincoln. So the hope was that at the 1:00 appointment, I had dilated or effaced at all, and then could maybe be induced. If not, they were going to go ahead with the C-section at 4:00 that day. So either way, so we drop off Lincoln before that appointment. We go see him. Again, he doesn't even come in like you're walking into parents whose child has just died. Like, just have a kinder demeanor. It's like, I believe that he knew he was at fault. I believe he knows. He retired very quickly after Milo. So after doing this for 30 some years, he was pretty young. He's like early 50s. Like he had said that he was not even close to being done. So so many things point to that he knows he's at fault, and that instead of having any kind of remorse, he wanted to protect himself.
Yeah.
And he's going to be careful with everything he says. He's going to pin it on me. He's going to act like it's Sid's. He's going to be defensive. He's not going to be super kind and remorseful because he's scared. So that's the kind of doctor now that we're dealing with that we hadn't been before. So this is a new doctor I feel like I'm meeting in the worst time of my entire life.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, you're effaced 50% and you're dilated like anywhere between a 1 to 2. So I think we could bring you back tonight and get you induced. I feel okay with that. And so we were like, okay. So he's like, let's bring you in at 10 p.m. I'm not in till tomorrow at 7 a.m. He's like, this is your first vaginal birth. It's going to take a long time. Your body's barely going into labor, not even. So it's going to take a long time. You're not going to have him before I get in at 7. This could be a marathon. Just prepare yourself for that. It's like, okay. So we leave. And my plan was, because we didn't have to go until 10, was to go back to my parents and spend some time with Lincoln, have dinner with him. So, but we went back home first. I was waiting on some swaddles to come. I wanted teddy bear swaddles. I wanted to buy 2. I thankfully found these really cute ones on Amazon that came so fast, because I'm like, teddy bears are my thing for him. I need to have those. I didn't want to originally I was just going to have him use Lincoln's swaddles, but because he wasn't alive, it was like, Milo needs Milo's things that were purchased for Milo, as the mother that I am for Milo. Like, if he was alive, like, wear your big brother's things all day.
Yeah.
It's different, but no, not in this case. I felt so like he has to have his own stuff. So I started going into labor. I started getting contractions that day, like that afternoon after leaving my doctor. So that was like, whoa, like, is this real? But it was very manageable. It was just like, I was kind of like how it started with Lincoln. So it was painful, but I was still able to just kind of like go about things. We went back to my parents' house, spending time with Lincoln. They started to get way more intense, and it was like probably 6 at night, and they were like really close together. So Simon called and he's like, we're not supposed to be coming until 10. I'm pretty sure like she's like in active labor. And they were like, yeah, you can have her come now. So my mom was just trying to finish dinner. She's like, so you're not going to eat? I'm like, I think we need to go. Just saying goodbye to Lincoln in that moment was so like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I like needed him so much. It's such a weird thing that like, there's nothing about Lincoln doesn't help, because it's like, he's a different child from Milo completely, but it's like, I just wanted to be close to him.
Yeah.
And just, that was just a hard moment. And then we stopped at a gas station and got protein drinks just to like have something in our body. I just like couldn't even drink it though. And they were getting pretty intense. We got to the hospital, and immediately they're like, you're not supposed to be here till 10. And like Simon was like, I called and they said to come in. She's in like active labor. And they were like, well, okay, let's see if we have a room. They were just kind of being weird about it. So then we go to our room, and I remember asking Simon to take like a couple of pictures and videos, because I just was like, I'm never going to have him like this again. So it was like in between contractions, I had him take those, and I couldn't even bear, like, I wasn't going to smile. Like I kind of look like I'm in a horror film in the pictures, but it just somehow still felt important. I wore my Milo socks because I was about to have him. So it was like my teddy bear socks, had my teddy bear swaddles. Jess had said like, you could bring an outfit if you want to see him in an outfit. I was like, I think I just want to swaddle him. I don't. So I met my first nurse, who was really sweet, but she didn't check my cervix. I feel like she right away was kind of downplaying where I was at in labor, of just kind of being like, well, this is your first vaginal birth. it's going to take a while. There's no way you're having this baby before 7 a.m. before your doctor comes in. I'll tell you that. Like, there's no way. And I was like, really? Like, I feel like my contractions are pretty intense. But again, I only ended up getting to a 4 with Lincoln. So I was definitely beyond that. I didn't know where I was, but I was like, this is pretty painful. She tried to monitor my contractions, which is also kind of like traumatizing a little bit, because it's like they also use that to monitor the baby, but he wasn't there. But it's like, yeah, they're trying to monitor contractions, but she just kept being like, I can't pick up any of your contractions. And it kind of made me feel like silly, like almost like I'm just making it up, because she was just like, I'm just not picking up any of these contractions. So it really is painful. And so like, I'm like, I am fully having contractions.